These are the final resting places of horror actors who once terrified audiences around the world, but whose graves are rarely visited today. Bela Lugosi died on August 16, 1956 at age 73 from a heart attack. He was buried at Holy Cross Cemetery in Culver City, California. Lugosi became one of the most recognizable horror stars in history through his iconic portrayal of Dracula in the 1931 classic film. His distinctive accent, commanding presence, and unforgettable performance helped define the vampire genre for generations. Although he remains a legendary figure among horror fans, relatively few visitors make the journey to his grave compared to many Hollywood icons. Chaney Jr. died on July 12, 1973 at age 67 from heart failure. He was buried at Holy Cross Cemetery in Culver City, California. Following in the footsteps of his famous father, Chaney became one of Universal Pictures' most important horror stars. He portrayed the Wolfman, Dracula, Frankenstein's monster, and the Mummy during his career. His contributions helped shape the golden age of horror cinema, yet his grave remains largely unknown to the general public. John Carradine died on November 27, 1988 at age 82 from complications related to surgery. He was buried at Holy Cross Cemetery in Culver City, California. Carradine appeared in hundreds of films and became a familiar face in horror through roles in vampire, monster, and supernatural productions. His distinctive voice and gaunt appearance made him a natural fit for the genre. Despite a career spanning more than 5 decades, his final resting place receives relatively little attention today. Rondo Hatton died on February 2, 1946 at age 51 from heart complications caused by acromegaly. He was buried at Lindenwood Cemetery in Iowa. Hatton's unusual appearance led him to become one of horror cinema's most memorable villains during the 1940s. His portrayal of the Creeper left a lasting impression on audiences and helped establish him as a cult horror icon. Yet decades later, his grave is rarely visited outside of dedicated horror enthusiasts. Zucco died on May 28, 1960 at age 74 from pneumonia. He was buried at Forest Lawn Memorial Park in Glendale, California. Zucco became known for portraying sinister doctors, mad scientists, and mysterious villains throughout the golden age of horror films. His elegant yet threatening screen presence made him a favorite among horror audiences of the era. Despite appearing in numerous classics, his grave remains largely forgotten by modern moviegoers. Tor Johnson died on May 12, 1971 at age 67 from heart failure. He was buried at Eternal Valley Memorial Park in California. The former professional wrestler became famous through cult horror films directed by Ed Wood, including Plan 9 from Outer Space. His towering stature and intimidating appearance made him one of the most recognizable figures in low-budget horror cinema. While his films gained cult status, his gravesite receives few visitors today. Maila Nurmi died on January 10, 2008 at age 85 from natural causes. She was cremated after her death. Better known as Vampira, Nurmi created one of horror television's most influential characters during the 1950s. Her gothic appearance and dark humor inspired generations of horror hosts and filmmakers. Although she remains an important figure in horror history, many modern fans are unaware of where her remains rest. Forrest J. Ackerman died on December 4, 2008 at age 92 from heart failure. He was cremated following his death. Although primarily known as a publisher and collector, Ackerman played a major role in promoting horror films and monster culture throughout the 20th century. His magazine, Famous Monsters of Filmland, inspired countless future filmmakers, writers, and actors. His influence on horror fandom remains enormous despite his final resting place receiving little public attention. Paul Naschy died on November 30, 2009 at age 75 from cancer. He was buried in Madrid, Spain. Often referred to as Spain's King of Horror, Naschy portrayed werewolves, vampires, and countless other creatures during a career spanning several decades. His films gained international cult followings and helped popularize European horror cinema. Despite his importance to the genre, his grave remains relatively unknown outside dedicated fan circles. Ingrid Pitt died on November 23, 2010 at age 73 from heart failure. She was cremated after her death. Pitt became one of Hammer Horror's most recognizable stars through appearances in classic vampire films during the late 1960s and early 1970s. Her performances helped establish her as one of horror cinema's most beloved actresses. Yet many younger horror fans remain unaware of her final resting place. Jack Pierce died on July 19, 1968 at age 79. He was buried at Forest Lawn Memorial Park in Hollywood Hills, California. Although not an actor in the traditional sense, Pierce created some of the most famous horror appearances in movie history. His makeup designs for Frankenstein's monster, the Wolfman, and other universal creatures became iconic symbols of horror cinema. Despite shaping the look of countless legends, his grave receives little recognition from the public. Michael Gough died on March 17, 2011, at age 94. He was buried in England. Gough appeared in numerous horror films throughout his long career, including several productions from Hammer Films. His ability to portray both sympathetic and sinister characters made him a valuable presence within the genre. Though remembered by dedicated fans, burial site remains largely overlooked. Barbara Steele died on December 31, 2024, at age 87. She was buried privately following her death. Steele became a legendary figure in gothic horror through films such as Black Sunday and numerous Italian horror classics. Her haunting screen presence helped define European horror cinema during the 1960s. Despite her enduring reputation among genre enthusiasts, public attention toward her final resting place remains limited. Peter Cushing died on August 11, 1994, at age 81 from prostate cancer. He was buried at St. James Church in Surrey, England. Cushing starred in dozens of horror classics and became one of Hammer Horror's defining actors. His portrayals of Dr. Van Helsing and Baron Frankenstein helped shape horror cinema for generations. Yet compared to many mainstream celebrities, relatively few people visit his final resting place. Christopher Lee died on June 7, 2015, at age 93 from heart and respiratory failure. He was cremated following his death. Lee portrayed Dracula more times than any other actor and became one of horror's most enduring icons. His commanding presence and remarkable career made him famous far beyond the horror genre. Despite his legendary status, his ashes rest privately away from public attention. Claude Rains died on May 30, 1967, at age 77 from internal bleeding. He was cremated after his death. Rains became famous in horror history through his starring role in The Invisible Man, one of Universal Pictures' most celebrated monster films. His distinctive voice and remarkable acting abilities allowed him to create a memorable character, despite rarely being seen on screen. While movie fans continue appreciating his work, his final resting place remains largely unknown to the public. These horror legends spent their lives entertaining audiences and creating unforgettable moments of fear and suspense. Although their films continue to be watched by new generations, many of their graves remain quiet, overlooked, and rarely visited.